Appreciate everyone joining again for our monthly call. And last month was so far so good up until this point. So we definitely appreciate everyone's efforts. Do have a few topics to go over, and then we'll open it up to any questions, any updates, and then we'll go from there.
I cannot get the headphone to work. It's okay.
Let's see here. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and kick it off. David, you ready to go?
Ready to go.
We're going to talk about rollovers, and then we'll talk about high winds and how to deal with those situations. All right, David, we're ready.
Morning, everyone. We're going to talk about rollovers this month. In our area here, we've had a couple of rollovers, and I was a member of the American Truckers Association Accident Review Committee, and so they came to me to ask me about them, what was the cause, and I gave them the information that I had, that has available to me. But I want to give some of this to you guys. One of the things there's three reasons why we have rollovers. One is speed, one is fatigue, and the other one is distraction. These are all things that you normally need to pay attention to during your normal driving. But these are the basic causes of that. With a set of double, normally if you have just a straight trailer, you have one pivot point in your train of vehicle. With a set of doubles, you have three pivot points, which means you have three places where there's, in quotes, wiggle room. And if you're experienced as a driver, you know that if you make a sharp maneuver with your steering wheel, if you look back at the back trailer, your back trailer is now moving in a much larger wiggle than what your steering wheel was. That's because of these three pivot points. So those are things you need to be really pay attention to, because that's one of the major causes of rollovers. Rollovers happen. It doesn't matter what your driving experience is. I've had rollover drivers who have had very little experience, and rollovers for drivers who have had a lot of experience. And that's because at some point there's a distraction, or people aren't paying attention, and those normal things that may cause an accident happen with rollovers. You can have a rollover without even having any contact with anybody. Okay. Probably the biggest one, though, is fatigue. Being tired means that your distraction and your speed are something that you're not really paying attention to. And they have things called a micro sleep, which means that if you're really tired, just for not even a second, but a half a second or 3/4 of a second, you can literally fall asleep. Now, you're not aware of it because it is so short, but it is very possible. If you've ever come to a stoplight and put your foot on the brake and then sit there and then all of a sudden jerk yourself awake because you realize you've actually fallen asleep. That's from being really, really tired. So fatigue is probably one of the major things. You got to be really rested before you come to work. And if you're driving and you're tired, or you feel rested, unrested, stop, pull over, take a break. Okay. Maintaining your following distance is one of those things. If you're fatigued, if you don't have your following distance is not right, then all of a sudden you may wake up and realize that you're too close to another vehicle, or the warning light on if you have the FCAM or distance warning on your truck, the light or the alarm may go off. That may wake you up in your normal reaction to jerk. You don't want to do that. If everything else is okay, when you're going around curves and turns, remember that the posted speed limit on there is for cars, not for trucks. Trucks should be about 15 10 to 15 miles an hour slower than for what's posted on there for cars. Okay? This is particularly true if the road is slippery for either, excuse me, slippery for either snow or ice or even water on there. Whatever the reason is, you need to be, when you're going on a curve or a turn or on a ramp or an entrance ramp or an exit ramp, and you're making that turn, you should be, again, 10 to 15 miles an hour slower than what's posted on there, because that's for cars, not for trucks. Do not make abrupt lane changes. Make your lane changes planned well ahead of time. Look at the traffic, make sure your lane is clear, and that you can actually move over without making abrupt movements. Again, if you're tired or you're sleepy and all of a sudden you realize that you're too close or something's going on and you need to make a lane change, you may make one that's too fast, too quick. Another thing that I have a problem with some of my drivers is using cruise control. Cruise control, is particularly at night, is not something you should do, because what happens is when you're on cruise control, you kind of have a tendency to not pay attention to your speed or your distance and all that, because it's automatic. You got it going. You're not going to really have to pay it, because the cruise control, it determines your speed. And a prime example of that is the automatic vehicles that in Arizona that ran over the pedestrian. And it ran over the pedestrian part because the driver wasn't paying attention. They weren't paying attention because it was on automatic. So cruise control is not something you should be using. And I said, particularly, again, at night. If there's an animal on the road, hit the animal. Don't make a sudden jerk or a turn to avoid hitting it. That's not a good idea, because you can do more damage to the truck because you hit an animal is fine. That's something I could personally deal with. But having the trailer flip over on its side and having to deal with that is a lot more work for the contractor and for the drivers, because you got to miss your load. There's all kinds of reasons for that. So don't worry about hitting animals. Just maintain your control. Try to slow down, and if you're going to make a turn, make a change in your steering direction, do it slowly. And a lot of times that cannot be avoided. Okay. Resist the urge to steer quickly back into if for some reason you wind up off the road. You wind up with one tire on the curb or one tire on the wheel and one tire off the road. Don't jerk suddenly for whatever reason. Don't jerk the steering wheel back suddenly in order to get back onto the road. Slow down and stop, and then gradually get back onto the road. But I've seen drivers who, for some reason or another, either they fell asleep or they weren't paying attention, or someone almost ran them off the road and they moved over. Try to get back on the road by turning the steering wheel sharply to get back on. Again, moving the steering wheel sharply will reflect much more strongly in the back than it does in the front. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
No, I don't have questions, David, but some of the new tractors that we are buying with the technology, we have noticed that with the cruise control, the sensors like measures the distance and gradually start like slowing down the tractor. So far it's been, I think, a positive things in terms of distance for the drivers. So, but that's the new tractors, not the old ones, like the ones that we're recently buying.
Right, but that that's a safety device. It's not an actual cruise control. I'm talking about when you actually put your vehicle into cruise control. Slowing down the vehicle because there's a vehicle in front, or you get a warning from the vehicles on the side. That's automatic, but it's not cruise control. I have all new vehicles, so I understand what you're talking about.
What about in relation to the trailers being overweight? Driver hooks up at a station or hooks up at a customer's location, and they're gonna, take a set of doubles or a 53 footer. Obviously, they don't have a way to weigh the trailer to know if it's too heavy for, DOT purposes. How should they handle a situation like that in the event that happens? And then two, if those heavy trailers cause a rollover, how much is that on the driver versus the carrier that loaded the trailer or the customer?
There's not much you can do about that. The only thing you can really, if you get a trailer report, it will tell you how many packages are in there and roughly the weight. And you should put the heaviest trailer up front, not in the back, for the same reason. Because the heavier the trailer, the more weight their mass will whip around more than if it was in front. But if you have a customer that's overloaded, the customer should be able to tell you how much is on the trailer, because they loaded it. They know how many packages are on there. You should ask them how much weight is on this trailer. But the only other thing you can do is to know where the nearest scale is, and pull into the scale and automatically go through and pay for it if you need to, and find out what your weight is so that it's correct. You can go back to or take it back to the customer and say this, and then take it back to the customer and say, this is overweight, or I need to switch them around so that the heaviest one's in the front. But it's delicate when you're dealing with a customer.
Right.
But like I said, the only thing you can do is find a scale. Now, if you have a cell phone, a smartphone, the smartphone can locate the nearest scale for you.
Thank you. It's good information. Anybody else have any questions about rollovers? What about in relation to wind, David? I know here in Southern California, the winds are very bad, especially certain times of year, and especially right there by the Rialto hub, where a lot of even Lugmo drivers come out here. What's the advice and how to handle those situations?
Yeah, well, we have an advantage with the kinds of puffs that we have, and because the belly below, two things. One, the center of gravity of the trailer is lower, so it's less likely to tip. And two, the belly extends down to a point where the wind can't get underneath it as easily. Part of the reason why some of our trucks don't get pulled into the scales is because the officer doesn't want to get on one of those dollies and slide underneath, because there's not a lot of room under there. So, but that's one of the advantages that we have. However, if you're empty, it's a crapshoot between going slow because you want your momentum. I'm trying to get into this scientifically. The Newton's law says anything in motion tends to stay in motion unless acted on by an outside force. So, if you have more force going forward than you have hitting you on the side, that's going to keep you from rolling over. However, if you got high winds, such as 50, 60 miles an hour, and you can't go 50 or 60 miles an hour, then the best thing for you to do is to get off the road. Find some place that you can face the wind if you can, when you park. Put the nose of the truck into the wind and park.
It's really good information. Yeah, and then one of the things that we always see too here in Southern California is taking the curves when it's windy, and traditionally that's some of the scariest scenes that you see, at least here in Southern California. I know over by the 60 freeway and the 15, that's notoriously one of the worst areas right there, where tractors of all types of carriers, they flip over right there when it's windy. And whether they're getting ready to go northbound or whether they're going southbound, it's just, for some reason, how the wind flows through that interchange, you see trucks just going north on the 15 past the 210 freeway. Same thing. For some reason, getting ready to go up into towards Barstow and stuff like that, the winds just really go after tractors and trailers. So a lot of it is, part of your weather report is looking at the windy conditions, especially here in California. It's one of the big challenges from a safety standpoint. And you see a lot of rollovers because of the windy conditions.
Yeah, there is a website that I have my driver use in order to deal with weather conditions on the road, because they used to call me and say, "What's the road going to be like ahead of me? What's the road behind me?" It is the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. It's their website. It's NOAA-road conditions. It will give you a map of the United States with a legend that tells you what the road conditions are in every part of the country. It will tell you what it is today, and then there's a map that will tell you what it is tomorrow, and there's a map that will tell you what it is the day after tomorrow, so you can plan your trip accordingly. And it will tell you high winds, it will tell you snow, it will tell you rain, precipitation, it will tell you weather. It tells all kinds of things. There's actual map, and there's paperwork on it. Not paperwork, but written information about what it's going to be like. Having that every time you go from one location to the other, or you're heading to an area, we've avoided bad weather in this entire year with all of my vehicles because of this website. It is, again, NOAA road conditions. It's a fabulous website.
That's good info. So hopefully you guys are able to get that website. I'll email it over to you as well, Xenia, after the call. Be some good tool to use for the drivers before they dispatch from anywhere, really. Be good to incorporate.
Yeah, you can get it on your phone or your tablet or whatever. I mean, the drivers usually use their phones, but it's excellent.
Sounds good. Any other questions in regards to rollovers or windy conditions?
Yes, I got a question. How about the dust storms?
Say that again.
How about the dust storms?
Dust storms?
Yes.
Dust storms are like any other storm, where you can see what's going on and be able to drive with knowing who the passengers next to you can see that far ahead of you. Get off the road. Do not drive through dust storms. It's the same as fog or whiteout conditions. Don't drive through those. You guys have seen probably many videos. They're on TikTok and a few others where the road conditions have been bad enough in cars. You have 40 to 50 truck car pileups because the first people could not see. I tell my driver, you can't see what you're doing, imagine that somebody has built a wall across the highway, but you don't know where it is. And the other thing is the people behind you that aren't paying attention can hit you just as well. So whenever you can, and you can't see, and you can't beat things, pull off the road and park.
Good question. Any other questions? That was a good one. All right, I'm going to show a video that Xenia wanted me to show in regards to a semi truck that gets blown over. It's very real. So just take a look at it, some takeaways, and apply those to your daily habits. And we'll get this started here. was sometimes visuals are even too much, but yeah. So I'm sure we've seen a lot of these situations in our time. Many of you guys are out on the road. You see these types of situations and occurrences. Everything I know about rollovers, a lot of the time it's a preventable accident when it occurs, and it's usually determined that the driver could have avoided those situations. Some situations where we understand it, if the gust of wind just happens or different things like that, but usually there was something that led up to that, or something that the driver could have done, whether it's speeding, it's dropping the speed, recognizing the conditions, and making a decision versus trying to push through it and just get through it. It usually doesn't end well, and typically rollovers are very, very costly, not only to the driver but to the owner of the vehicle. In FedEx's situation, their trailers and packages. So it just becomes a very, very tough situation in the event of a rollover. But just keep those things in mind, those things that we covered in relation to weather, relation to steering and curves, speeding, and distracted driving. He touched on that as well, how that could lead up to a rollover as well. So just keep those things in mind, apply them to your daily life as you start your week. You guys start off to take off your runs, probably starting tomorrow. Just keep those things in mind. Those are good things to keep in mind. Zian, you have anything else you want to cover with the team?
Yeah, it's just very quick, the updates. It's on the second page of the agenda. They have found just what you said about the preventable accidents. There were around 11, and most of them were in the Ocala domicile, for people who are Ocala domicile in this last year. So they want for you guys to be aware. The data is showing that drivers, the most at risk could be drivers from 1 to 2 years of experience, 2 to 3 years, and 3 to 4 years of experience. The time of the day that has been happening more often is between 1 p.m. and 6 a.m. and between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. And the days of the weeks are from Monday through Friday, guessing because other drivers, people wants to go rush to their work, they are late, they do whatever. And if we are not paying attention at all times, or something happened with us as drivers, then they are gonna judge that accident as preventable. And the violations that they've been receiving: use of the mobile device, keep on the top one. Speeding, it's at 20% of those violations is due to speeding. In the other ones is for lights, like silly things that the headlamps, the brakes, lights. So make a good pre-trip and keep a safe speeding. For Lugmo update, they're gonna have, the FTA is going to have a vehicle inspection in Florida with the Florida Highway Patrol, and will be at the Wait Station, and that's gonna take place on April 28th and the 29th. It's going to take place on I-4 eastbound, and it's gonna start at 7 a.m. Thank you so much to everybody who's leaving the tractors clean. Please let us know if there's any mechanic issue we need to know on time. And we're going to start calling everybody for the evaluation reviews on April and May. Vacation time, I sent an email to everybody individually. Please let us know a month or two in advance when you have plans to take your vacation, so we can plan accordingly. And I'm gonna wait for the email you're gonna send me, Aaron, for the website that David just shared with us. But in addition, I think that we have an app. Ian and Ruben use an app. It's called Wind. And basically it gives a little bit of information that David shared with us. So you guys, I'm gonna share that app with you guys, and I'm gonna share the email that Aaron will send with the website for the for the NOAA. I think it's what's called NOAA road conditions. In that way, you have various resources to rely on. So that will be it in my part. Thank you so much again for everything you do.
Thank you, everyone.
Aaron?
Yes, sir.
Aaron,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add a little something to that. During the inspection, the drivers need to know where their registration books are, be able to grab them. They need to have they need to know where the booklet is that can transfer so they know how to transfer the information from their logs to the police officer. The ELD instruction book, they need to know where that is. They need to be able to put their hands on it and not hesitate and go, I'm not sure where. The other thing is that if you're wearing glasses, if you're wearing glasses during your inspection, you must have your glasses on. You cannot put your glasses down on the dash in order to find it. You need to have all this information ready for the inspector.
Yes, please review your binder. Make sure you have all documents. And if something is missing or expired, please let us know. We try to keep track of all binders on a weekly basis, but please let us know if you need anything. Because as David is saying, yes, you need to know where the binder is at all times.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Thank you for everyone that participated. You guys have a good and safe week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.